being in that state, you don't take anything personally.
Boom. That's it.
And I think that is so important. And I'm so grateful that I have manifested so many people in my life who embody that, because I am such a people pleaser. I really am. And it's something that I'm always working on. But letting people down is a huge, huge like fear of mine. And it really takes a toll. So like, for example, having friends where you're like, hey, I'm really not feeling good today. Can we reschedule, or can I just not do this? And when you have people in your life who just, oh, of course, you do you. Like, yes. They're not taking anything personally.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on someone who, in my eyes, has given themselves permission to live a life authentic to them. Our guest today is from Langley, British Columbia. You may have first came across her in the Chainsmokers' Closer Lyric music video, which is now sitting at 2.7 billion views on YouTube. Since then, she's gone on to build out her personal brand where she shares tips on wellness, beauty, travel, clothes, and more. She's worked with brands such as Fabletics, Erewhon, Gooseberry, Mush, Nautica, and many more. Today on the podcast, Alyssa Lynch.
Hello. Wow.
How we doing, sunshine?
Introduction. I love that.
I mean, you're the real deal. You've been doing quite a bit of things these last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
I believe it. The one thing that is so clear to me about you, Alyssa, is you've done a really great job of building out the Alyssa Lynch brand over the years. And that takes so much confidence and consistency, especially when you're first getting started, because you're trying to like navigate, like, what do I want to represent to the world? How do I want to like, you know, kind of share my message and what, you know, my mindset and how do I want to be portrayed in the world? And it takes a lot. I'm curious, how important do you think building confidence in yourself is in order for us to reach our inner potential? This podcast is all about reaching our potential. And I think building confidence in yourself is one of the most important things that you can do to get started on that path.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think it is so important. I think that, you know, if you work on your self-confidence, you're also working on like the self-love you have. And I think that's where kind of everything beautiful starts. I grew up acting and I came out to LA to be an actor. And throughout that time, you know, you got to build a lot of confidence as an actor, because you get told no a lot. You get, you know, there's never a level of perfection, and you really realize that. And it's actually, I feel like it actually did quite good for me, because there was no beautiful, not beautiful, good, not good. It was just so, it was so dependent on the role within acting. So, oh, you're too skinny, or you're too fat, you're too brunette, you're too blonde, you're too, your voice is too high, your voice is too low. And at a certain point, yeah, the no's hurt in the beginning, but then to a certain point, you're like, oh, I'm just not the right fit for that. And I'm me. And I think that kind of helped my confidence, especially just getting to know myself and kind of other people, because you're studying characters who, you know, exist out there in the world usually. And so I think it just allowed me to understand other people, understand myself. And then from that, when I quit acting and I was like, wow, now I just get to be me. Like, I just get to be Alyssa. And I don't really care if, you know, people are going to judge me or not. And mind you, I do still have my days for sure. But
yeah, I think we all do have our
days. For
days.
sure. Especially now. I feel like it's been a while and I'm like, okay, I got to get back to that point I used to be at. But no, yeah, I think that that's what helped me and my confidence. And yeah, I think it's so important.
That perspective shift of, you don't get the job maybe because you're not the right fit, or your voice is too low, or your voice is too high. That perspective shift of, maybe it wasn't meant for me. Like, let's move on to the next thing. A lot of people get caught up in that internal conversation of the woe's me. What is it about me? What am I doing wrong? And it's like this repeated voice that's in our mind that ultimately will just stop you from moving forward. But to have that perspective shift of going, it's not me, it just wasn't the right fit, it just allows you to move on, so much more quickly. And you mentioned the self-love aspect, which is like, I would say that was probably one of the biggest things that I focused on last year, was like really dialing in on what makes me feel my best self. And it has had a ripple effect into how I show up into the world, how I show up to these podcasts, how I show up to the community around me. It's so important. What do some of those self-love practices look like for you?
Yeah. There's so many. I would get an A in self-love activities.
Oh, I like this already.
Yeah, I feel like I just continue to kind of add these certain tools to my toolbox as life goes on. And so I was just telling, Tiana, our friend Tiana.
Yes.
She was like, go through your morning routine with me. And I was like, girl, do you have like an hour? Cause it's long. But it's like really helped me. It's really helped me and give myself that love and time and attention and care that we need in this, crazy world. So I definitely have slowed down a little bit, which I think is an act of self-love, because I was always just what's next, like go, go, go. I think quarantine really, really helped me with that. And so, like having a morning routine, I never used to do that. I used to just get up and go, and like taking the time for myself in the morning, writing down my thoughts and my goals for the day, and just maybe some feelings and emotions. When I say meditate, I'm not one to sit for 30 minutes and go into like a whole trance. I cannot wait to get there, and I will get there, but it's like 5 minutes. And sometimes it's closing my eyes and taking 3 deep breaths, and then that's it. And like sometimes it's like that's all my body wants to do because I'm excited to start the day. But even just those little moments like make such a difference.
Yeah, I would even say that meditation became a big part of my life in like the last 5 years. But I would even argue, because I think when people hear meditation, they assume I must sit, I must cross my legs, I must breathe, and that's meditating. But I think really the practice of meditation is just about being aware of what are the thoughts that are going on in your mind, what are those emotions. And so if you're able to just acknowledge them, even I would argue the journaling aspect of you writing out how you're feeling in this moment is in of itself is almost a meditation. And that can then set you up to going, I'm feeling anxious today. Well, why am I feeling anxious? And being able to stem it to the root and then adjust, kind of the day ahead based on why you're feeling that way.
Exactly. I mean, it's mindfulness, and mindfulness allows you to connect to yourself. And that's an act of self-love. I feel like a lot of people who, obviously don't take the time to be mindful, or just have this big disconnect from their self, and they might not be able to understand their emotions. And that's kind of when things can get anxious and stressful and chaotic.
Yeah, that hamster wheel. The also you mentioned the slowing down is so important. I like to look at it as like recharging the batteries. You need to take the time to recharge yourself to, we all are these 100% batteries when we wake up, but at some point you have to slow down and actually give yourself that time to feel good and come back to the next day, refreshed. There was a point in your career, which I think is really, now when I bring it up, you're going to be like, I'm sure it's going to trigger like an emotion of like probably you trying to navigate getting to where you are today. But
that's okay.
There was a point in your career where you were known as like a travel couple, right? This was with your ex. Yeah. And you two had split. And I think this was kind of like a moment that I think a lot of people go through, where they're on one path and they're all they know. And now all of a sudden it's like, I need to switch. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do. But you took time to really take inventory on what you're good at and what fueled your soul. And it kind of goes right off of just like talking about slowing down. How did taking the time to slow down and think this through help you kind of get to where you are today? Because I think that was a pivotal moment where you could have gone a lot of different ways. And I think you probably did a really good job to be honest with yourself of what mattered and what you wanted to do.
Well, thank you for that. That was definitely a time. Wow. And I mean, I never actually, and I'm so grateful for obviously the travel experience and kind of title I once had. But I really just fell into that. I was never a photographer or a videographer. I just was able to meet extremely talented people within that space, and wanted to take a break from acting because it was so, consecutive days of acting. And I was just like, okay, I need to take a break. And I got to go travel and create content, and it was amazing. But yeah, when it almost became this label for me that like I really didn't feel like I almost was, what's the word? Like a very good candidate for that, if that makes sense. And so when my ex and I broke up, I've always been like an extremely passionate person about the things that I like. Like when something makes me feel good or moves me, or I just, really like that lip gloss, like whatever it is, at whatever, state, I'm like very vocal about it, and I want everyone to try it. And I'm always like bringing over my favorite foods or my favorite snacks or my favorite supplements or like whatever for other people to try, because I'm like, and I like want to see their reaction, and you know what I mean? So I had always had this very big passion for wellness, especially, and just like sharing the things that I love. So when, my relationship ended, I just organically had this platform, and I just started sharing more of like everyday things that I loved. And I was going through a very intense breakup too. So in that time, I was getting very passionate about self-love and self-care, because your girl was just doing anything.
She was on one. She had to figure some things out.
Exactly. So I'm grateful it all happened that way, because then my audience started responding to like, oh, I want to look at Alyssa not for like what unrealistic hotel in, India she's at. I want to like look at what coffee she's drinking. And it just that's kind of how it all fell into place.
Yeah, it's so good. I think that's a true example of like, you want to have an authentic connection with the people that were engaging with your content, because of course, like it is cool to live through people's lives and perspective of traveling and flying private jets and having nice cars. And I think when you were probably really starting to get traction and building attention, I think that was like what Instagram was all about. But even now, it's really cool to see in 2022, like the rawness of like TikTok content and how like the best type of content is shot on your iPhone. And it's, granted, these are literally like moving cameras now, but it's so much more about the raw and like the realness. And that's the stuff that really stands out. When you were first getting all this attention, right? I don't know how quickly it came after the Closer music video came out, but did you feel like a lot of pressure on you? Because I think that can be overwhelming when all of a sudden there's a lot of eyeballs on you and you're probably getting hit up with all these different offers and brand opportunities. But was that overwhelming in the time that it was happening?
To be honest, no, not really. I don't know if I'm just like okay with that. If I like the attention. But no, I got really excited from all of it. And some of it was like not like when the Fire Festival documentary came out and there was a lot of publicity on that, it was very negative. Like people whatever are going to say what they're going to say. And it honestly just didn't affect me. Like, I don't know if that's the acting background or what.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's got to be something about the acting where you were already. I mean, how young when you started acting? 14, younger than that?
Yeah, around then. Yeah.
So you were already building this like almost like this internal shield for you were ready for that type of. That's what you were building. At least you were walking towards that type of life where like you're gonna be in front of camera, you're gonna have people talking about you. So that actually would make sense to me that it wouldn't affect you as maybe if it was a normal person that had that happen to them.
Yeah, and I also think too, like I was never like when I first moved to LA, I was the very first people I was introduced to in the social media world were very, very different people than I had ever experienced, or very different from myself included. It was a lot of the people who came from the Vine background, doing the Vine and the comedic kind of little skits, and they're very, very big personalities, always trying to figure out how to grow numbers and like how to go viral. That was always because I don't blame them. They had experienced going insanely viral, millions of dollars, probably like, like the ultimate success within the social media world. And I lived in the same building as all of them, so I was always around them, but I never could really connect to the side of like, oh, I want to collab with this person to go viral. It did not seem authentic to me. It was authentic to them. It fit all of their personalities. But for me, I was just like, I that doesn't feel right for me. And so I really never went down that path, and I could have, but it wouldn't have been real and authentic to me. So when the audience I built just kind of continuously, naturally started to happen, and mind you, I didn't get 10 million followers or anything, but just like kind of a good audience and community, it just excited me. Like I was just grateful,
So much props to you for having that ability in the moment to recognize, like, if it wasn't authentic to you, it wasn't probably the right approach, because I think there's a lot of people in this world would do things that aren't authentic to them because they think in short term, like, it's going to make me a lot of money. It's going to get me a lot more eyeballs on the thing I'm trying to do. But I think in the long term, you would then look back going, I shouldn't have done that, because now I'm known for that one Vine that popped off and I'm doing a prank, and I don't want to be known as the prank girl, So I think you had that, like, to be able to kind of think bigger picture allowed you to just make better small decisions in real time, which I think has allowed you to obviously grow into, like, the Alyssa Lynch brand is like it means something, like it's not just somebody that's just has a large audience online. There's certain things that people know when they come across you or something that you're promoting, they know exactly what they're getting, versus like, this is just some random person that I came across on Instagram and has a lot of people following them.
Right. Mind you, I do feel like sometimes I could sound like a walking advertisement and that I'm just doing advertisement after advertisement. But like, if you know me in real life, I am like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not like giving swipe up codes and like making money from it while I'm walking around. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have to try this. You have to try this. If I ever go to like a family's house or whatever, I'm bringing my favorite drinks, my favorite, like everything. So it's just kind of the way I am.
Well, that's why I love the podcast medium, because I think it's so raw and real that people can get a real sense of who somebody is just by listening to them. Like when I was prepping for this podcast, and I told you I listened to a couple other podcasts that you were on, I could tell, like, I wasn't just seeing somebody on Instagram, like, portraying the wealth or like, health and wellness and like, good food for your body. Like, you could hear it in your voice of how authentic you were. So I hope that people that, really follow you for whatever reason it is, if they come across this podcast or other podcasts that you've been on, I think they'll really hear who Alyssa is, versus obviously content. It's very short. It's very quick, post videos, but in the long form, I think people can really get a gauge for how authentic somebody really is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's why I'm like, I love going on podcasts and doing something like this, because it's definitely a little more personable.
Yeah. One thing that I think we've had in common, I think you had me beat. I think in first grade, you started dreaming about living in LA. I think I was in fifth grade when
Were
I started.
you?
Yeah,
Ooh,
it was
I
real
love
early
that.
on, but I knew LA was the place that I wanted to be. There was a quote that I had came across. It must have been from a couple months ago on your Instagram. It said, "I dreamt hard to make this move, this place, this life, my reality. And every day I wake up so grateful that I never gave up." Like I said, you've wanted to live here since you were that young, first grade. But what do you think it takes to manifest these dreams into your reality? Because there clearly were some hurdles and like risks you had to take with like moving to LA and going for it. But what do you think some of these like skills or decisions that you've had to make that have allowed you to step in and make this your actual reality?
I think first is blocking out the doubt and fear of other people, because it's not yours and you don't have to take it on. And like, my family is the biggest supporter ever and I love them, but absolutely they told me for the first, for forever, well, what's your plan B? Well, what's your plan B? And I was like, guys, I don't even know what that means. I'm not doing that.
Plan A for Alyssa. Plan A for Alyssa. That's it.
Plan A only. And I think it all just comes down to like self-belief, really. And like, if other people can do it, why wouldn't you be able to do it? And you can do it. And I just continuously kind of said that over and over to myself. And I think it's really just comes down to full on self-belief. I journaled every single morning since I could write. Like, I really did. I mean, mind you, maybe cut out a few times if I was like traveling or whatever, but every single day I would journal and I would just say like, California, I'm moving there. Like, can't wait. I'd watch the OC and I'd play that intro, the California song, over and over again. And I'd be like, can't wait for the day I move there. And yeah, I think it's just, I would just say blocking out other people's fear, doubts, comments. It just doesn't matter.
And even fast forward today, you still feel like you have to do that. Obviously, I feel like even myself, where I look at where I'm at now and where I was a couple of years ago, I would dream to be where I'm at, but now there's still even that internal voice that will sometimes question, do I have the ability to actually do these things? But there's that like repetitiveness of, I would say it's like becoming your biggest hype man or your biggest hype woman of having to, pep yourself up and be like, I can do this. I can manifest these things. I don't need to believe in what other people are saying about me, but as long as I stick to this path, I'll eventually figure it out.
1000%. Sometimes I wish that I could sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, you need to take advice from your 8-year-old self. Like, well, you would have never doubted and feared this when you were 8. So why are you doing it at 26? Like, come on, get it together.
Yeah, it's so true. When we're kids, there's nothing there. We don't worry. We just go towards what we're interested in. But as we get older, it's like, these beliefs, these opinions, the environments that we're raised in, that transforms the way we think, the way we move, the way we feel. And when you're thinking back as kids, it definitely doesn't impact us like that at all.
Those were the times.
Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. Today's episode is brought to you by the greatest matcha brand in the world, Tenzo Tea. I started drinking Tenzo on the daily basis, ladies and gentlemen, at the top of 2021, and it has been an absolute game changer in my life. I am a caffeine addict. I love my coffee, but this has been a game changer in the sense that it gives you sustained energy throughout the day without the crash. So I will start my day off with 3 scoops of this stuff, which is a lot of caffeine. Maybe you don't want that much. And then I'll do 3 scoops in the afternoon. So twice a day. This keeps me moving and grooving throughout my day and has been a game changer. This podcast is all about us helping us reach our inner potential. And I'm telling you right now, Tenzo Tea is by far helping me do that by making sure that I feel my best and I have the energy to do a lot of things within a given day. 64% of American adults claim that they crash from coffee every day, and they pay the price as well with dehydration, jitters, anxiety, headaches, you name it. Switching out the morning coffee for matcha helps us stay level-headed, focused, and avoids the coffee crash. Tenzo Matcha contains natural caffeine and L-theanine that keeps you energized and feels like a Zen monk. I want to be a Zen monk. Don't you want to be a Zen monk? The product tastes great, and you just add water, and it makes also a delicious latte, which is what I do. I add almond milk, a little bit of water, bam, 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 and it tastes oh so lovely. If you want to try some Tenzo today, head over to tenzotea.co. Once again, that's tenzotea.co. Use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word. That is going to get you 25% off anything that you order. So head over to tenzotea.co. Use my promo code TheBeardedMan. It'll be linked in the description below. That'll get you 25% off. I'm telling you right now, give it a try. I think the lattes are fire, and it really keeps me moving and grooving throughout my day. So help feel your best self, stay energized so you can reach your inner potential with Tenzo Tea. Use promo code TheBeardedMan. Back to today's episode. One of the podcasts I did come across that you're on was the Dreamer Big podcast. Came out in November of 21, so not that long ago. You said, be willing to always evolve because it's the most important thing in this world, which I completely agree. Yeah. How has being open-minded to evolving benefited you?
It's a daily practice. So I got to take my own advice because sometimes it's hard, especially like in this world with social media. We got to evolve, got to learn from the younger generations, got to get rid of that freaking ego because it's not going to last long on here, or making this your reality. And yeah, not only like in the social media space too, but just like as a person, obviously always working on evolving. And like I said, letting my ego go. Realizing that the world is evolving so fast. So I need to do that myself and be open-minded to change and growth. And for example, I'm not always good at evolving because I literally am just getting into TikTok 2 years later than everybody else. During quarantine, I was like, I am not doing a dance. Never. Mind you, I still don't dance. Yeah. But now I'm making videos and I'm like, yep, should have let my ego go. You know what I mean?
We all do that though. We all resist change because comfort is comfortable. And especially when we get our rhythms and our routines, it's like, perfect. You know what you're supposed to be doing and when you build into that routine. And then at some point it no longer serves you or it's not working. And then you have to make these adjustments. But I was guilty of it too, where I was resisting TikTok until 3 months ago. I said, screw it. Because JT Barnett is pounding in my head that you need to be on TikTok.
Same.
And I was like, all right, I'm just going to listen to this guy. And then I had one video hit like 4 million and it was like light bulb. It was like, oh, I should be doing this. Like this is where the world is going. Gary Vee always, when I was getting to social media back in like 2016, 2017, he was always pushing like, you cannot control where the attention is. You have to go to where it is. And whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether obviously it's TikTok, it's just keeping that like open-mindedness of like, if that's where the attention's going, go there. And then also into, I think, in every other bucket of your life where not being fearful of change and not being fearful of the unknown, because a lot of times there's a lot of growth that comes from it.
Absolutely. It's letting go of control too is a huge, huge thing. And that's something I am not the best at.
Tell me more. So the funny thing, you're saying that going into this year, the 2 words that I'm living by is let go. I want to let go of expectations. I want to let go of narratives. I want to let go of situations that are outside of my control. And even right before we jumped in this podcast, we were talking about how the New Year's been this far. And I feel like the world was listening where I told myself I'm going to live by let go. And I have had a handful, more than I would anticipated, of moments where I was like, what did you tell yourself? Just let go. So what do those words mean to you?
Same. Everything. The people, I feel like you are when you strive to be a certain way or have growth in a certain way, you admire certain people who embody that. And so I caught myself like just admiring people who are so in this like flow state of like, you know, not necessarily like that they don't have a to-do schedule, because I do think that that's important. You can't just be like, I don't know what I'm doing today, type of thing. But
Totally.
in some situations, just being like, I'm down to go there. I'm down to do that. Like, oh, whatever. Or like if the day didn't work out the way that they had planned, it's like, oh, let's just go do this instead.
We'll pick up tomorrow. We'll pick up where we left off. Meanwhile, I'm pulling my hair out like, why isn't this working?
Seriously. Oh, when like I'm like, you know, writing down 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. And then I'm like, wait, this person's just canceling on me? Like, what? They're just going to cancel on me?
Yeah.
And that was a big kind of eye-opening experience for me to be like, oh, you're very drawn to that because you need more of that energy in your life. You got to let go more. You got to be more present, not live in the past, not live in the future. And just, there's been times in my life where I've really been in that state. And I just feel like if you're in that state, but also mindful, I feel like that is just the best place to be. And it just allows everything to kind of manifest the way it's supposed to.
I completely agree. I feel like it allows you to step into your power because you're not, there's so many things outside of our control in the on a day-to-day basis in our career and our lives. But when you can get into that flow, and the one person that really comes to mind that I've seen transform a lot in the last 2 years is Mike Posner. I don't know if you're a fan of his music, but I can send you one of his, he was on a Rich Roll podcast a couple months ago, and he is just in alignment. He is so just like calm, cool, knows what he wants in this world, but he's so unfazed by, you know, if somebody canceled on him or if things didn't go the way he hoped it would go. And I think that a lot of that has come from a lot of internal work, a lot of hurdles that he's had to overcome, a lot of stillness, a lot of solitude. You know, he like walked across America by himself. He's climbed Everest.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things about him.
I'm gonna send you this podcast after. It's really good, but there are these certain people, and I see a lot of it, especially having lived in Venice for over a year now, where they're just so not fazed by things that are outside of their, like, they are a bubble. Their little world is just them, and everything else that's happening around them, just like, no problem. Just,
it's also being in that state, you don't take anything personally.
Boom. That's it.
And I think that is so important. And I'm so grateful that I have manifested so many people in my life who embody that, because I am such a people pleaser. I really am. And it's something that I'm always working on. But letting people down is a huge, like, fear of mine, and it really takes a toll. So, like, for example, having friends where you're like, hey, I'm really not feeling good today. Can we reschedule, or can I just not do this? And when you have people in your life who just, oh, of course, you do you. Like, they're not taking anything personally, especially because you know if someone's canceling on you because, like, they, you know, have a better plan,
doing something else,
a better option.
Yeah.
But when you really know that someone's just doing it because, like, they don't feel well, like, not taking it personally and having those people in my life who are just like, you do you, like, it just takes, like, this weight off my shoulders, and it's just, it's the best way to be and the best people to have in your life.
Yeah. And that's a product of you surrounding yourself with these right people, where everyone is very mindful. Everyone gets it. They're not going to, like, if I had a friend of mine text me saying, yo, I'm not feeling good, I wouldn't even flinch, because I know I've been on the opposite end where, like, hey, I can't make it. I just need my own time for tonight or this weekend. And the people that get it are those people that are, like, you've attracted those people into your life, where you have other people that might question you, take it offensively, and it's just then you kind of question, like, is this person supposed to be in my life, or do they just not get it? But I think that's something I want to talk to you about today is I see and I know the people you've surrounded yourself with, and a big quote that I love and live by is you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think that is so crucial and so true. And I made a very when I moved to LA 4 years ago, I told myself, like, you're only going to allow people into your life that have a positive impact, not that I can get something out of them, not that I can benefit from them, but just like they inspire me in some way, shape, or form, or they bring good energy. But that's something that you've done a really good job of, where you are surrounded by these high level, passionate people. How has that had a ripple effect on your mood, your own like confidence, your visions for who you want to become and what you want to do? How has that impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, so much. I definitely fuel off of the people around me. I know a lot of people can kind of get energy and motivation, especially in a work environment, from just being on their own and like whatever kind of inspiration they have around them. But for me, it's like collaborative. I like work the best collaboratively. I deal with emotions sometimes the best with like the one person I can trust and vent to and like hear advice from. And so the 5 people I'm around the most, it's very important that that they understand that and motivate me, and I admire them, and I can trust them with my emotions and with my getting work advice and like all of these things. And so I do feel like, you know, it definitely took time, and I've had amazing friendships, even that aren't as strong today throughout this time of living in Los Angeles. But it was all a part of like my journey to get to this place I'm in now, with the people I have around me on a day-to-day basis that like are my chosen family. You know what I mean? And even if there's a couple people who don't do at all the same thing that I do with work, but like I think it's just like having that trust and that admiration. I think that's like 2 of the most important things.
Yeah. I will echo, it definitely takes time. Like, I feel like the first 3 years I lived in LA, it was really just a place I worked, and I didn't really have that sense of community. And it wasn't until last year, once again, moving to Venice, where a lot of like, I felt like a lot of relationship seeds that I planted over the years finally came to fruition. But
where were you before?
I spent 2 years out in the Valley. I was north of Burbank. And then I was next door to El Segundo in Hawthorne for a year before moving to Venice. I always knew I was supposed to be in Venice, to just other external things that are happening in my life. It never made sense to finally make the move. And then when the pandemic hit and we were all working remote, I was just like, all right, I should just be in Venice. So 2021 was the greatest year of my life in every single bucket. And I think it was just the putting myself in the environment for all these friendships to finally come to fruition. It was just beautiful. You're in Playa, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just as beautiful there.
Just the West Side in general. I mean, I moved to in 2019, which was my favorite year to this day.
It was 2019.
Favorite year ever. I'm like, what will beat it? I'm waiting. I'm like 2022. I don't know, but I hope so. But yeah, the West Side, there's just something about, even if you can't see the water, about like being over here and feeling it. Like,
yeah, you know, if you just go a couple miles this way or drive 10 minutes, you're going to hit this beautiful ocean. And I feel like it's comforting knowing that when you go to the beach, it's like this stillness. It's this place of just like beauty, and there's really nobody else around you. Like, there's so much room at the beach too. Whereas when I was living in these other parts of LA, it's just madness. Any direction you go, there's just like a lot going on. And I mean, I respect people that live in WeHo and in downtown LA and Silver Lake and all the other amazing parts of LA. But I'm just like, if I'm going to be in the city, I got to be somewhere near the water and just having access to it when I need it. It's just so peaceful and so calming. And I think that ripples on the effect of the people that live nearby it too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm so grateful. All the 5 people that are closest to me in my life all live 5 minutes away.
So good.
But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's so important. What are some important boundaries you've built in your life that really help you?
Saying no. And I think that actually, not even necessarily saying no, but not saying yes right away. I've learned that, and mind you, I'm not always good at this. I get really excited and I say yes, and then the next day I regret it. And especially after a coffee,
So that's when people should hit up Alyssa is like, I don't know, 11 a.m. when you've had your caffeine to start firing off opportunities.
I'll literally make your whole business plan and make like 5 meetings with you. And then the next day I'm like, why did I do that? So I've realized this about myself. And I think like, I'll say, let me get back to you. And then the next day I'm like, okay, if this job, if this trip, if this meeting, whatever, still feels right, then yes. But I always like to check in with myself and make sure that I'm not just, making commitments right off the bat. I think that that is a good boundary to set and to just communicate it like, hey, I got to look over a few things and I'll let you know tomorrow. And sometimes it's too saying no. Like I am an introvert in the sense of like I'm very confident with being social and I am outgoing in ways, but I recharge by myself and like I need time by myself. And so I think that like I always know not to overdo it. Some people and a lot of my friends can just go, like if we go on a work trip together, like they can just go to breakfast and go to dinner and go to all the things in the day every single day. And I'm like, oh, I need to space it out. Like I need a night by myself. I need to go on a walk in the morning by myself. And so just being vocal with it. And honestly, for so long, I had kind of shame behind it or like being the grandma of the group and going home instead of staying out and all of this. And it wasn't until I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to own it. And I own it now. And people really respect it when you just own it.
Yeah, that's the self-awareness is so, so important. And knowing like, if it works for you, that's all that matters. And regardless of what people say, and regardless of like, if it interrupts scheduling and programming, like you have to prioritize yourself before anyone else, because if you don't, nobody else is going to look after you. And I'm the biggest supporter of that, because it just allows you to step into your own highest level of yourself. Because if you're just going and you're saying yes to all these things and you're out and about with too many people, you don't have that time to slow down and get your own time. It's eventually going to catch up to you and you're like, what is happening? I shouldn't have said yes to all these things. And now my mind is going crazy.
Amen. Yep.
Yeah. It's not a fun place to be. The people pleaser you said earlier, that was something along the lines I had heard on another podcast you're on, the Blonde Files podcast. You talked about, and this isn't necessarily people pleasing, but it goes along the lines of having impact on people. But you said how we don't remember how people look, we remember how they make us feel. And I forgot the context of the conversation, but I thought that was a really interesting comment. And I'm curious, how do you hope to impact the people around you and also people that might be following along with you across social media?
Well, first off, that was Becca Tilley from The Bachelor's quote. And
okay.
she had posted it to her stories, and I think
you're right. That's what it was.
Thousands and thousands of people had screenshotted it and reposted it because it was so good. She goes, like, something hit me the other day. Not one person has profoundly impacted my life because of the way they looked. It was because of something that they said or the way that they made me feel. And I was just like, you're so right. Like, we can look at all of the most beautiful exterior people and just be like, wow, they're beautiful. Wow, they're beautiful. Wow, they're beautiful. But like, when your heart feels impacted from something, that's not by the way somebody looks. And it's hard to differentiate kind of your place in the social media world when a lot of it is photos and videos, and that can, have to do with looks a lot. And that's fine. It's fine to like look good and showcase that. There's nothing wrong with that. But is that like fulfilling to my soul? Absolutely not. Even just, to like watching other people's content of them looking good. Like that's totally fine. But like, yeah, it doesn't like fuel my soul. So I think like I always wanted to, that's why like the wellness route definitely is something I'm like most passionate about, is just because I think, I've been through some ups and downs in my life, and like I said, I'm very passionate about sharing what I love. And during those times, I found tools to add to my toolbox that like made me feel good or helped me heal or helped me connect with myself. And so as I started to share those things, especially ones that took some courage and I needed to be quite vulnerable with, the response from it was the most rewarding thing. And not in the sense of getting attention, like rewarding in the sense of someone saying like that helped them. Really, really beautiful messages. And like, I can say the same for some other people's content that like through times have really, really helped me. And I was like, wow, if I'm giving somebody else half the feeling that I'm getting from this person by them sharing what makes them feel good, then this is so fulfilling. This is amazing. Yeah.
It's interesting how that works though, because I've had personal experience. I had my own experience where the episodes, more specifically the solo ones versus the guest ones, very much, we just go into a lot of different topics, but the solo ones really allow me to like dive into some real, a lot of it's like productivity, health and wellness, dating, all this stuff. But there have been a handful of like really personal topics where I felt like I had to say something about it. And it was like, I'm doing myself a disservice as a podcaster, as a creator, if I don't like step up to the plate when I see this opportunity. And the episodes that I've had those moments where I'm like about to publish it, and I'm like, am I really about to send it right now? Like, this is really going to like fucking rock some people if they hear this episode. And I'm just like, send it. Like, you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. And the ones that I have had the most, not resistance to post, but those like, we're about to do this, have been the episodes that I've gotten the most direct feedback from. And it completely changed my view on being a creator and what do people, not creating content because not creating content because I know people need to hear it, but creating content that I know makes me uncomfortable to do, but then comforting when I finally release it. It's like letting it out of my body.
Because vulnerability is so healing to yourself, to other people. People crave it because they're afraid of it. So hearing somebody else be vulnerable almost gives you the, invitation to permission to be vulnerable yourself. Yeah. Thank you.
What's you don't have to go into the detail, but is there one thing that kind of comes to mind when you think about something you've been vulnerable with via social media that you've seen a lot of positive ripple effects from?
Yeah, definitely. A few things. I think going through heartbreak and kind of sharing a little bit of that experience, and like being okay to be alone. I struggled with an eating disorder, and I think sharing a little bit about that and body dysmorphia and body image and perfectionism and imposter syndrome, all of that, I think so many young girls and guys struggle with that. So
speaking of vulnerabilities, what have been some of the things that you have shared through your social media that you have seen have a ripple effect on the people that have came across what you were talking about or, sharing, and how has it impacted you?
Yeah, I think there's something so healing about being open and honest about the struggles you're going through when you're going through them versus just sharing the story of, how you became healed, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So when I was going through heartbreak, when I was going through struggles with eating and food and body image and body dysmorphia and imposter syndrome, I was not from the get-go, but after kind of, analyzing where it comes from, where it stems from, and doing some self-work, I did share those struggles and the connection I made with people, the advice I got from other people, the responses, positive responses, and love I felt was so, so fulfilling, worth every ounce of uncomfortability that came over me when sharing those. And it left me to be like, you know what, I want to continue doing this, as things come up in life, which they will.
Yeah, I think the one thing that and this morning I was working on a podcast, one of those vulnerable podcasts where I'm talking about overcoming traumas. The one thing that's so clear to me is that, like, we're all human. We all have these emotions, and whether we want to acknowledge them and publicly talk about them is totally on us. But it's just knowing that whatever you're going through, somebody has been through it before, and you might not directly know somebody, but just knowing that, like, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to be heartbroken from a heartbreak, or to go through what I can only imagine you would have mentally gone through and physically gone through, dealing with, anything within food and like not wanting to eat. And so it's like being compassionate with yourself to know that, like, whatever it is you are going through in this moment in time, people have gone through it. You're not like the oddball out of the group, and just telling a friend, telling a family member, telling a loved one, whatever it is that you're feeling, can just feel like the weight of the world is just taken off from your shoulders. And then it allows you to start making progress towards, a better version of you.
Exactly. It gives permission to yourself and to other people to be able to just struggle and hurt and feel, and then also know that, like, you're not alone in this and it's going to get better. Like, it gives off that message. And I think that there's just never enough of that in this world.
Yeah. There is beauty in the struggle. In the moment, it feels like the worst thing, and it feels like nothing will come from it. But in time, there's always something that you can learn from it.
And I think I've learned throughout all of that is I've really shifted my mentality, and I catch myself whenever I'm, feel like a victim or I'm playing the victim. I just switch it right away, and I'm like, we're not playing the victim here.
Yeah.
This is happening to me for a reason. I don't need to understand it right now. I don't need to welcome it with open arms and be happy about it, but it is happening to me for a reason, and it will all make sense later,
Yeah. Once again, that is the best perspective to have. And hearing that, it's purely the product of inner work and going through some of these hurdles, and then which allows you to have that type of a perspective.
Yeah. Grateful for it,
Yes. We're going to get into the final 5. So these are the last 5 questions. Each question, try to answer within 1 sentence. If you got to go a little over, please do.
Oh my gosh. The floor is yours. I hear these things sometimes, and people literally just keep rambling, and it gives me such anxiety. I'm like, stop.
Could you please stop? Play by the rules, will you?
Seriously. I'm like, no one wants to hear you continue to talk.
All right, let's see it. Now you're putting the pressure on you. You got one sentence,
seriously.
1 sentence for each. Then Alyssa's like, whoa, I got to tell you about this.
I know.
Okay, question number one. How can people learn to give themselves permission to follow their interests and ideas?
Believe in yourself.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Number 2, if you could go back and tell yourself one piece of advice at any point in your life, what would it be and when?
I would be 22 years old and just say, let go.
My favorite 2 words. How young are you today? 26?
26.
26. Let go. So good. Question number 3. What's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
An area of my life I need to put more effort into is setting time aside to just be creative.
In the sense of like just what, like making sure you have the time allocated so you can just have fun and see what comes from it.
And being creative in different ways, not just for work. Yeah. Like the other day I painted. I haven't painted since I was 10, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That probably had you feeling some type of way emotionally.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Create more time to create, literally.
Exactly.
4th question for you. Yeah. What's the first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential?
The first step to reaching your inner potential, writing down things you want to manifest in your life.
Getting clear.
It's
great. 5th and final question. Somebody's listened to the last hour of this podcast. What is one challenge you have for the listeners today after they wrap up listening to this episode?
Say that once more.
If somebody's finishing listening to this episode, what is one challenge you have for them after they finish listening to this episode? What's something actionable you challenge them to do today?
I challenge you to, I would say, I have a good one. Write down on little sticky notes or anything, really, like things that you feel like are weighing on you or just not doing you of good service, whether that's like a feeling or a thing or a person, whatever it is, and burn it. It's very therapeutic. You know, and it's a metaphor for just letting go of shit that doesn't serve you, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Everyone get your notepad out, start writing shit down, start burning. Just make sure you're not doing it inside your house. And
actually be careful.
We don't want lawsuits coming in because you guys took this too seriously and burned your house down.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I'm a big fan of that. I love that idea of like writing it out, seeing it, visualizing it, burning it, getting rid of it out of your life. It's so good. Alyssa, this has been a fantastic conversation. I knew it was going to be great. I'm a big fan of you. I think it's so clear you are, and I know even myself, I get caught up in my day-to-day. I'm like, I got to do this. I got to go here. This is the next thing. I'm not doing a good enough work on this aspect of my life. But from the outside looking in, I think you've done a fantastic job of listening to yourself and what you've wanted to do. You've manifested the life that you're living today. I think the energy you're putting out there to the world is benefiting people and helping people in many different aspects of their lives. And I think the vulnerability, kind of the last stuff that we were talking on, I think is so important. And to have somebody like yourself who has built quite a bit of an audience, but to preach that to people and showcase like some of the struggles you've gone through and some of the hurdles you've had to overcome, I think just gives people the permission to step into those uncomfortable conversations or to finally step up and do the thing they've always wanted to do. So I think this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm curious to see what people take away from the episode. And hopefully you guys and gals don't burn any houses down. Please don't do that.
Seriously. No burning, no fires.
No fires.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I could say all the same things about you. So I'm really, really grateful I got to be here today.
Well, thank you. This is a great episode. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode today, I have a favor to ask from you. Please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you're listening in on, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, you name it. Screenshot this episode, post it to your IG story, tag Alyssa. She's at Alyssa Lynch, ALYSSA LYNCH. Tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y. Share the podcast on your IG story. Let me know, what was the biggest takeaway? What was something about this episode that changed your perspective? We dove into a lot of different topics. Please let us know, what did you learn from this episode? I'd be super curious to know, as well as linked it below. I will have Alyssa's IG, TikTok, YouTube, and then her website, alyssapagelynch.com, where you can find out some more info on her. Is there anywhere else I should be sending people after the episode?
Nope, you hit all the spots.
That's it. Alyssa Lynch,
Amazing.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.